Hello, species value nature system. Hello, hello, species value nature system. Live, or now it's gone. Excuse my appearance, I just got it up. So I want to talk about DACA. DACA, there's no more school shootings. This is changing not just the nature of the. This is for breaching organized crime method that was to the cause. I'm not a lawyer, not police force, not criminal. To 99.9% of crimes. 99.9% of crimes per what was entrenched here since before our founders' births. DACA, so in other words, is recorded and confessed. I went to a grammar school. There was a recently sentenced principal sex offender from the school. Was recorded that the courts, their family members, and the police chief's kid, like in other words, a minority, also in collusion with doctors and people with database relationships, with overt gangland drug crime roles and ones with medical corruption associated with natures of crime, where they're using the databases and how, like, DACA is forced, and if it's captured, and now it's not positive. No, we have four share. So DACA is with database solution stack crime. There was recorded criminal foreign influences recorded in my high school that were recorded and confessed by the courts themselves and by others, where they keep pausing, recorded and confessed delusions, lies, evidence, sequence, shift, crime roles, identity theft, attaching people to other relationships to other people they don't know, directing exceptions. They're forging in databases, pretending I had behavior I didn't. In other words, they're supposed to have. There's a reason they're still doing what the right to be presumed innocent. They're making up charges, so they're showing that record. They're not pretending to be innocent. They have been doing this with courts through time, not letting people speak, using that time to pretend they tried to speak. In other words, if someone tells you not to speak, you go to the court. You hear from lawyers tell you all if you're that preventing rape threats from being countered. Just now, because all that was tied to it is when the way they have it, it's either take time to explain because they have interbranch actors covering up live progressions from database crime rules that are not for legalized means, but there and here we have native nations of police forms together pretending that investing because then the nations are motivated to hide that because they're gonna then that where peace is fake peace positive, huge positive. Campuses of different ages through time, like CCS, like everywhere there's criminal justice. See, they indicated. See, they had the women too. See, because the sickest men are fakes hiding behind women that have been stacking database solutions, pretending people have mental illnesses and relationships with doctors they never had. WFSB also did this with this. I've been asking them to fix this because I can't even move forward with my book too, because this is also because of how it's intercampus. And my book is about how the science is sharing identity. Excuse my experience. I'm sick of hearing about school shootings, and the whole time through administrations, I've been asking to report specific acts. And I've been, people are overtly with preventing mandate by pretending passions, pretending opinion natures, interbranch, and line, interbranch even. But and then with the media, fake news. They stole my voice to fake conversation because they're delaying me from reporting the rest of the child offenders with schools, and they're delaying me from reporting the other. I have to go find a wife. You know what I'm saying? How many years am I going to play this game? Because they attach me to fake conversations and relationships to Alicia's that since 2001 I didn't even know them then. Since I was a kid, but I didn't even before. Well, I used to walk people by. Sometimes they will call you someplace or something like that, and they would time things so some people that you don't know the names of say things in relationship to how known through time we've had overt criminal enterprises and unrealized ones juxtaposed with our criminally legalized ones since semi-ancient times in relationship to the database, illusion stacking, and fact treatment nature rackets by the one that used color. That not by accident our agencies never had the sophistication to be able to defend themselves in relationship for shared valued more and more fake positive treatments with negotiations at the trade center level, tied to market positions, tied to a value nature system that is tactically all not the one that is spaces exist. The identity of existence in space is distinct from itself. It's simultaneously distinctly non-distinct from itself. It's all parts of itself as itself. Shares this identity to Allah. See, the sciences share this trinity. Yin Yang paint three values as nature, simultaneously paint five values as nature, like the pillars of Islam. See, but the controversial parts of the Quran, the hard parts about it, are only because the first part of it is not valid. Because before the time of the messengers, before Jesus Christ, Alpha and Omega was already understood as alphabet value. English had already been revealed as a science teaching about how the sciences share an identity. So this is regarding there are people like Matt Pierce. I was in the context of I had to stay back because of 2 speech classes. I could have got out of it, but I would have had to have heard girls I didn't know that I only knew through their recorded and confessed and demonstrated having been directed by their involvements with people who were in high school before that and leading up to that, which was the last year of my, when I had to do it again because of 2 speech classes connected to it with, they have a probate judge tied to a Della Fera family. I only know them. They sought me out for confessions. Strategic. That's what they did. They stacked people I didn't know, sequentially filling in the blanks over what was in my grammar school confessed and demonstrated and reported to and as other natures of child abuse on and off campuses, other natures of crimes, where and how they have overt criminal enterprises juxtaposed with our branches originally instilled. The Legion failed. So we have victim predators, interbranch, interscience opinion. You have to show how they're predators. you can't help it because it's fact treatment nature-wise, opinion nature-wise dishonest, sequence shift dishonest, mandate law not let for natures that knew they had to realize formally end up realizing themselves needed to cover live progressions, needed to hide their personal finite body of value and progression value convictions, opinion natures, premises treatments, active body value and progression treatments. They have to hide that from correlation nature's ability to discern it. Having to hide fake passions and emotions per sequence shifts, per roles already invested as victim predators, and how motivated to it, which was off the books because they knew that they could, what they forced branches to be and to justify was also being blamed on others and on selves and exploited and measured, no one understanding, not even kings, not even queens, not even chiefs, not even messengers. In other words, messengers understood, but they needed to, they couldn't leave it in detail because this already had control of modern nations' sciences without them realizing that was the agenda, not money. It was before money. And before money, space, nature relationship to the value of all areas too. No, again, but from and as a value nature system that these are where our tactically ulterior from. And so I'm like a mess because I have to finish my book. I keep my book could change the world right now. This is what it's about: the science of sharing identity. And you have to go if you follow man's law. So we have women stacking database illusions that already had fake men spreading with like you could lie to an individual, you could lie to a group the same way, but they're doing that insidiously with all that tied to DACA into our treatments of the schools with trade center negotiations down to, especially with psychology, Connecticut interbranch actors and their drug cliques, drug crime cliques, formal drug crime cliques recorded and overt ones recorded tied to the on-off campus database illusion stacking natures of identity thefts and recorded motivations for roles with Connecticut courts, with the area of Paul Manafort brothers, with the area of CCSU, on-off CCSU, Paul Manafort Drive, with their roles with a detective Samuda and some guy, I don't know all their names, tied to, in other words, they know my names because they were directed to cover up, recorded and confessed, demonstrated interbranch police roles and foreign ones with illusions, with evidence receptions, where they just write other and pretend for because they don't want to get this person in trouble and stuff, because they have that on-off campus relationship, also training undercovers and stuff like that with criminal justice, where and how they were also off originally and still criminally foreign influence or off the records evidence reception crime rules with an officer Magnanos who and another guy who was just a victim predator now another not even knowing himself. I don't even know that guy's name. but from Magnanos from East Hartford. He was on the campus of CCSU, and with a co with the crimes with the courts against each age of fact treatment nature, not just against Paul Manafort and us with their election crime rules, also local level, and because their state judicial branch offices also involved with New Britain Superior Court actors, further recorded and confessed, involved with forcing more or worse sustained than just the principal sex offender sentence. And since before that, they're recorded and confessed. They put me in jail with lies after years of them with crime rolls with that court database illusion stacking, attaching me to fake relationships to others, with them with roles directing all kinds of natures of crime, specifically window breakings, directing them to people sequentially directed. That's the only context I know them in. You know, in other words, they're painting kids on and off campuses and interbranch as what they're not, and they're starting with what worse they are consciously reported doing with the principal sex offender that has nothing to do with sex, has nothing to do with the drug crimes juxtaposed with and as that. Also juxtaposed with and as reported methods effectively maintaining more and more and more people motivated to slander and to pretend they believe should be hurt. The same people with courts recorded and confessed, just directing the news to attach people to fake words and conversations, directing. Same time, the courts do the same thing. So worse than not being allowed to defend one's own innocence in each age of fact treatment nature. The same further predators are recorded interbranch tied to the nursing homes there and here. These are not means. How much money DACA owes there and here? Not just the investors, if that's what's tied to the DACA program associated with the Lombardo family. And with the ones in my with each of the campuses I went to criminally, I dropped out of that class right away because of their roles with the Italian and other Puerto Rican and other overt criminal enterprises in collusion with police and courts. These are people who are all victim predators. So before they let you demonstrate how they're a victim, you have to talk about people and see those are people who are directed. They're directing people to those sensibilities as they're older by having them the only context they know people in, they have to hide all the juxtaposed criminality, and then they have to do it together. The whole method is recorded. There's a Kelly Kazmarek. I don't know if that's correct pronunciation of her. I never had a class with her, never was in the presence of her online. She says her father's in the CIA. Another there's a Klotz family also tied to Kathy Tansey, who was recorded and I call it confessed because their name, anyways. Even if that was someone pretending to be her online, talking to Sal Civiello on a Facebook page, which a person across the street from him and others also recorded and confessed tied to like a Fanza family. A stranger only met them in this context that they confessed to recorded crime rolls with kids and of various natures and with courts and with evidence perception, but also with WFSV being them involved with the medical corruption and overt drug clicks with the interbranch and with the sex offenders already through time with them. It's like fire investigators, interstate retired and standing too, tied to the sex offender cliques in the branch used by them. Also, two Mendez brothers are reported and confessed involved with crimes with police pretending things reported or not, and for sequence shift cover-ups. Plus, they've been doing this through time. When I was a freshman in high school, there was the Moore family also reported and confessed involved with the further recorded and confessed involved with the grammar school further criminally with the sex offenders Phil Colon. So these are policing of the on and off campuses and with ties with forensics places and medical corruption places, doctors and courts and their family members involved with more sex offenders and overt federal criminals and body dumping spots criminally through time. And federal criminals and the kids of and tied to federal criminals who were co-defendants of Robert Luskin in a 2006 case, and in one in the in a part of that part of a case that was going on at my father's time of my father's death. I was already trying to report untied at the time. Now recorded, it's demonstrated now. I can see how it was tied. They had other strangers confessing to me about their roles with court police and with shift because I was trying to see because this is a fact cheating racket also tied to confessions about spots near and on and off CCSU that I had knowledge of because strangers like that I only know from conversations and from confessions and from the roles with all kinds of natures of crime with kids, with New Britain Superior and others recorded and confessed, like Justin Klavinskis and his wife. Lucinda, I believe it's Alderuccio. I said that name wrong once on because I never had a class with her. I only know her name because people used to say that she used to spread rumors with her husband. I also never tried to contact, and this was I only knew him. They were filling me in on confessions in relationship to what had started when two O'Brien families with involved with detectives, interbranch Congress, and like investigations and on and off campus crimes with kids with behavior as victims, but as victim predators. No. Depends. I mean, this is not personal against anybody. This is about actual acts, actual sequence. Because then, in fourth grade, Ray Colon moved in, and they recorded and confessed and demonstrated that tied to their needs to cover how they demonstrated to me collusion or not juxtaposition between collusion in the form where you just exploit where the overt criminal enterprises are being exploited by the legalized ones because they can't be legalized and how it was criminally legalized to be state played and it is played on and off campuses. So I'm not sure if this is the same thing with or the extent of all the names of DACA, if they're the same ones. In other words, those are just extensions of it. I'm trying to remember if I want to say the wrong name of a teacher or but we have further confessed and recorded child offenders also with the middle school and with houses next to it. And the reason they recorded and confessed that is because those people have been pretending to know me through time with other extended family members of a Cololo family. A Phil Cololo, a Bob Chase told me he was on the police board because when they still were using the principal after and with their rape threats and untimely deaths, confessions on off campus from the same cliques that was making confessions to me while this, when I came home, also with it recorded and confessed tied to my previous neighbors with and as that group and the new ones with the same intercampuses tied interbranch evidence crime roles as victims, as victim predators. Also, the house with the they used to have a car that looked exactly like the General Lee. I'm not talking about. See now, that's a different house tied to the Sammy Vega with that. I think I don't know, but the mother after they moved out, the mother of the extended family member of the old man who died next door, Mr. Cleese. See now they're using the name Lewis. It's also recorded and confessed all kinds of juxtaposed natures of crime. And with the Dillon family, recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved by people in themselves with their like drug and evidence fabrication nature cliques, identity theft cliques, like also crime rolls with elderly homes and medical corruption overt recorded. Also further child sex offenders and rolls with it with men and women doctors at Hartford Hospital associated with the Dillon family and with people associated with the community center and with town offices, further with them as people also tied to the family members of some of the sex offenders involved with that, with election crime. Also with religious uses. See, now religion is about the law, but we don't have mandated law because we have people's opinions. And now if you go out and ask, what do you we have to do? Beg, so I'm not going to. What do you have to do? You have to beg someone to report. So they're forcing sustained sex crime acts. See how that doctor did all those, especially if they made that up, because you can't tell if it's fake news. But it's also used to facilitate such. Because then you can discredit. Then you're gonna reach to what's easier to use as an evidence, because they're not allowing true sequence. They're stacking databases with illusions. They're keeping the kids interact at the same age of fact treatment nature. You know, people want to have a life that doesn't have criminal foreign influences and insidious rackets like roles like that. Even King's missed. This is tied to consciously maintaining natures with positions of campuses in every modern nation. You know, this is the family member with that, but they're maintained as defenses of natures in relationship to natures, like with misprision criminality with Hartford Hospital Institute of Living recorded. They use force. Like if you catch them, as I caught them recorded with sex crime acts and roles worse than with the principal sex offender, using this in those people consciously to further such, because they have lie progressions tied to them having been using such in their roles with overt drug crimes with kids and with each age, and juxtaposed with as the nature of the roles with medical ones and as ones who are police forms and as agencies originally instilled without the sophistication to be able to defend us while defending their roles with and as that with the other nations too. Psychology has wrought with physical delusions and sick fake natures. So that they are behind their police and roles with courts and prisons are offensively and with on-off campuses relationship to that. There are proofs that they were recorded, that it was demonstrated that they have the acting department of CCSU associated with undercovers, like training them how to hide bad things, vaccines. So, in other words, tied to the principal sex offender just sentence are further natures of crime with dozens of natures of crime tied to dozens of people with way more people than that with interests and needs now to hurt me by ignoring me and by pretending they know me and had conversations with me in the past, by sequence shifting, by needing and appreciating how branches were already facilitated all kinds of other ways with like an Iowa family reported to confess, demonstrated with the Weathersfield Police Station, state judicial branch officers, with this Faenza family too, according to confess. I only know them context I tried to report because they demonstrated their roles with the Dillon guy, also reported and confessed involved with the Phil Clough, further involved with the sex offender with the kids. I haven't pretended he knew me through time just because I never had a class with him. 2 times they tried to film illusion other. Then he tried to this is back also a Yagman family reported and confessed involved with police interbranch in court out court with sex crime rules online too. Then sequence shifts in cases to hide that. They're now letting their rape threats and other stuff counter. They have all kind of fake doctors, So we need to have mandated law followed because they're further child predators with what is it called, the middle school, and with their roles with like a Zano family also reported and confessed involved with this through time, with painting fake relationships to me sequence wise. In other words, then I hung around with their friends and with other ones that I didn't. In other words, also interstate him, a Sion Faglione family, and others, and Mayano family and the DeMoro family all reported and confessed involved with like interstate, with Rhode Island, and with these are internation too, juxtaposed with their roles with overt, known, and unrealized criminal enterprises involved with database illusion stacking, identity theft crime roles with them. John Mayano also tied and confessed reported use for evidence crimes. See, when you have branches needing to cover up their crimes, they're doing it by using areas and by using crime methods facilitated to their needs, interests, and natures, and roles with predicate acts, like a Leahy family that forged names and attached me to fake conversations with them. Also with Weathersfield Police and with MPO Floyd, and with a you know a Kovenskis family and other MPs recorded and confessed involved with crimes with a body dumping spot in New Britain of a serial killer. Also, these people in courts also reported and confessed and demonstrated reported with database crimes roles and other natures of identity theft crime roles with that serial killer before they put him away, and with the principal sex offender before they put him away. That doctor was reported with sex crime acts, sequence shift roles, medical crime acts, database solutions, that crime act. Also with other foreign doctors of psychology and investigators with that tied to Town Line Drive Mobile Also reported and confessed that the Morrow Colella Kerr family had crimes with evidence perception bodies tied to that. So both mobile gas stations into crimes with databases and cases and in courts. Not just in cases, they're also using it in court. They're also using it attached to them. And with behavior crimes, because they're not letting their offensive abuses of children counter, of elderly counter, because they're needing to cover what they did with court cases already through time, with roles with DACA with the kids, with Mike Roberts, Eric Jensen, also reported and confessed involved with the criminal justice, involved with the doctors in overt gangs, drugs with kids, criminal, and with the sex offender clicks further on off campus with it. Also, he's reported and confessed involved with the South Sevilla. I only know from him recording, confessed, and demonstrated in the one context I was in his presence with as an adult. I mentioned online. As I went by his house for a minute with Eric Jensen, who was in the process. Every once in a while, they would fill in on his confessions and stuff like that, with roles with a court that was involved with how the courts and how the military and how other nations are juxtaposed with overt criminal enterprises, and with them needing to hide the same lies, finite, active, and progressive, and using the same means to on and off campuses for what is facilitating uses of each age of fact sheet in nature, each individual group together progressively and sequentially for a behavior crime method that my book is about, that my movie is about. If I finish, I can't even work because I have to. This is what they do. They keep. This is an identity theft crime too, because also there are Alicia, women interstate who share the name Alicia, recorded and confessed involved with Alina's Pizza, with interbranch police and judges and their family members, and all tied to the courts. Criminally associated with database crimes and identity thefts and switching names of deans at CCSU and at Trinity College. See, but we need so they need to keep stacking so they and they need to keep stacking bad things, lies, and never letting anything on paper through people's lives, exploiting our. See, we could have change in 1 minute if we just forced courts to have to respond online. See, but we have interbranch evidence reception bodies in collusion with what only lets through 8 states and areas inclusion still as natures and convictions incapable of countering because of their positions recorded, like former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. Fake news won't even report on it, and they're hiding his crimes, Robert Luskin's crime roles, with other nations' police here. His roles with child abuses with DACA, and with Joe DeMauro, people tied to him, into federal criminals, and the kids of those federal criminals who were his co-defendants in the cases that all these people sequentially kept confessing, being coerced by courts to evidence reception crime rules, even directed to make fake sides of issues in courts. Then so they would have to defend that, like with people tied to a Phillips. I don't know. who's an anthropology teacher tied to the guy's tied to a Magdalena and her husband with Lena's Pizza on Park Street. Let's go. And I told them too that I'm getting a divorce here. You know what I'm saying? But the courts are involved with that first. In other words, because I want to do peaceful. I need the guy's name of a leasing agent also recorded and confessed involved with this with Saudi Arabia. One woman who works at Nordstrom reported and confessed by people I don't know the names. I can't get the names of him and his son associated with the leases and the people. See, that was my former and new neighbors were involved with crimes with kids with the police, with all natures of crimes roles, with and medical corruption clicks with foreign and domestic, with overt drugs and crime roles with evidences and database solutions, tech identity thefts with overt criminal enterprises, and more recorded, tied to them, more actors in wrongdoing, like when they attach me to fake conversations, fake relationships to a Leahy family, to a Lombardo family, to a Mazzucato family. Also reported and confessed involved with the police chief's daughter, Reno Mazzucato, and John Maiano's confessions and repeated about that, and I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But that's what they did. They tried to set up, and when you do this on a kid, when you sustain this each year, people, people directed to such impositions and database solution stacking roles that you're hurting everyone, because they're not just doing this. They weren't just doing this to me. They confessed and recorded and demonstrated abuses of a Mazzucato, of a modern pastries. I don't know their names, but the boys and girls in that family. And that is demonstrated how now they have opinion natures and sensibilities because of their ties to people, men and women, especially the men, especially the women, involved with sex crime rules, database solution stacking crime rules, spreading lies about me, inclusion with interbranch police, in court, out court, online, recorded, involved with sex crime acts rules, violence, fake care, simultaneously, medical corruption, medical drug crimes. We have this Leahy family too. We have a Harris family also reported and confessed involved with crimes with a Gallucci family, that an Aiello family also reported and confessed. Repeated the only context I ever know him in. And then Alex Maiano recorded and confessed, demonstrated involved, having pretended he knew me. One time I went with him, 2 seconds, I left right away, told him never to try to associate himself with me again. Well, he's also recorded and confessed involved with the fake news and men and women involved with the sex offenders clicks, drug clicks, with evidence perception bodies, foreign and domestic, also in collusion with crime acts with cases, within tied areas, bad things, boxing, with the community center. There's also a Domain family that was directed to pretend. This Domain family also reported and confessed involved with database solutions like identity theft crime rules, with the fake news, and with John Maiano also reported and confessed criminally and criminally involved with a Christine Bedard, Christine Tardet, and with the Phil Claw clique, and Joshua Julian. I never had anything to do with Joshua Julian in my life. He's over there saying shifting lies, pretending I partied with him. These are friends of the Colella family, with the Phil Colella and a Scalora family, also pretending I had conversations and relationships with them I never had, and spreading lies about CIA with my name. Like, you're saying he's the CIA, and telling some strange, like a Carla Greca to tell me that he's CIA. Like, why would a Carla Greca approach me on Facebook and just say, "Oh, this guy is CIA," when that's the guy I recorded involved with database crimes, identity thefts, sex offenders, cliques tied to them, drug crime rules tied to them. A Fred Crusade were also recorded and confessed involved with interbranch police and drug cliques, foreign and domestic, and evidence crime rules in cases with a modern pastry, abusing those girls. Also tied to the O'Brien family and to a Colella family that made confessions about that corner. Also repeated confessions from people, I don't know the name, those tied to that I remember, about them saying that it was a Tom Peruta family, and that he was Russian, with the corner of the house there, on that corner of the street, at the end of the street that the Modern Family pastry was. And I don't even appreciate having to see. I can't go I don't know those people. You see what I'm saying? So I can't approach them because it was not. I need to get to the police associated with them. They're hiding behind other people because they have their own kids involved with the crimes of the police chief and with his retired and standing detectives like the Mendez brothers and like the Dillon involved with the in-court, out-court sex crime acts and roles with the sex offender force sustained, and with ones before that, and still with schools. There's a Dr. Graham, and is reported that they made fake sides and issues also with treatments of state forensics labs and a number of juxtaposed criminal roles of the state police involved with Eric Jensen and his father, and with uses of religious places and of my extended family associated with a place on the Brown Turnpike, and with a Mark Violet since I was a kid, and so then they build sensibilities of women, also reported with their own kids getting abused because they have undercover positions that are no good. They have no good. See what I'm saying? So we need a response because interbranch too. We're switching names to the judges in sequences. You know, they're saying conflicting things into records and leaving nothing to counter, and attaching our voices more and more to fake words, fake behavior, fake sequences, fake relationships to others. You know, supposedly that. What do you tell a kid in kindergarten when they're so they're telling kids to make things allegations. They're not talking about real reality and acts. They don't know how to speak because they were built by this, by the what is agreed here and there, suit and tie, counter to a fake. Since some ancient times, nature will continue to demonstrate loss of the campus marcias as value revealed already, naturally, before it was criminally foreign influenced. Nature will continue to demonstrate with negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Care. It's 5Ds. So Earth values goals. Even though we're one species, we took it too long. Took Earth's value. Instead of evolving, instead of allowing mandated law to demonstrate Reality's potential, its identity, also positive relationship to itself. That's evolution. They obfuscate everything. Not by accident. They never demonstrated how religions are about the preservation of sciences, because they need religions defended with physical delusions, categorically needed by the lies people are telling outside of courts, the lies people are telling inside of courts, and it's a branch. They're forging names, switching names. A detective Samuda with CCSU is involved with identity thefts, fabricated police reports with sex offenders, proven with the kids with other campuses tied to him, and with his roles confessed and recorded with doctors, confessed on paper with words. He walked up to us in a court. We had to go to the court. They still didn't have the, again, after all these kind of times, they had to keep arresting me for the same thing. All I had done was gone to report their roles with sex crime acts recorded online. I asked to see his teacher, a guy Cohen. Said he'd be influenced. He said he'd been influenced already to lie. He lied to and with a Magnanos from East Hartford. He's got a daughter also involved with CCSU, but they have also other intercity before the Samuda. He said before he worked there. They said everyone keeps telling different things. Samuda, he did not arrest me. He came in when we were standing in the court waiting to go to the first day of court. He gave us the final another police report, and then he pretended he was the guy who arrested me, because the also other foreign and domestic, like a Greek guy, a Greek police guy associated with the MIT and like the databases and the policing of the stores, whatever their narratives are. He shares a girl with also with guys with shipping that were doing shipping, UPS involved with the undercover or what, or real. He said that he was a federal criminal with the shipping, but that was his report and confessed anyways. The same Aiello family, Aiello too, but Oliveri family also reported and confessed involved with database solution stacking crimes with people that were in my classes associated with federal criminals and crimes and cases with them, and with areas tied to it. In other words, as the federal criminal clique tied to the sequence shift from inside the Ninth Circuit in the Trade Center contest. That proven led to the 2006 case with also Thaddeus Grabowski, also demonstrated, reported, and confessed by people associated with him and by his repeated demonstrations to me, associated with a Mulcahy family, who are girls who also report that Mayano told me had pretended she knew me. I don't know, in other words, with others, and that's also the main brothers and their family reported and confessed involved, because those were federal criminals. Also, the former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on RICO law. This is why Trump asked you guys, do you even know anybody who deals with those kind of negotiations, which is what? Abridged fact-changing nature constitution. Why? How? Because we have to share policing because of the nature of the value nature system forced by the crime method against our founders, the slavery of our founders, simultaneously, that can't be told without, can't tell about worst parts of it, the worst roles of it forced, without telling this simultaneously. without telling this. You know, the solution comes from an identity that is true always, which is black people are owed better than what is the tactically denatured suburbs. And we have means for that. These, before we even had cars, the tactically denatured suburbs were forced with the factory nature, slavery of our founders, per laws so crazy against what anyone could say. What you had to say was dictated. In other words, this is a behavior racket, original and still fulfilled. So, WFSB and Fox CT and WTNH, please call me so we don't have to, you know, because you guys said you call everybody. But if you want to leave that and say you don't understand people because you're directed to do that, that's what they do. You know, I told you guys I didn't. I wrote online plenty of times. WTNH, the WFSB, and the Fox CT, and the other Connecticut media attached me to fake conversations. I've confessed and recorded crime rolls with evidence perception bodies associated with the park and the softball games you guys had together. Other things. So let's go. You know what I'm saying? I need to take care of the kids. You know what I'm saying? And I need to know who. I need to have on paper a means to discipline the men and women with the courts who are using sex offenders, also with interbranch forging names and identity theft clips associated with the Mendez brothers and the Agman family, and this Joshua Julian, and the Phil Collo also reported and confessed involved with the state police forms and the foreign and domestic. Also, see that Sal Civiello associated with the Kathy Tanzi and her family, or whatever, associated with Navy and stuff like that, associated with the Marine guy down the street, and this state police and the detectives. Also, one of those houses recorded and confessed involved with the Dillon guy and some other detective and others with criminal justice associated with the two female speech class teachers I never had one personal conversation with when I was in school. But I stayed back because of one. They used that to imply maybe that we had a personal conversation. We never had one. She repeated that right up front too, that there were roles with sex crimes with a kid who was she said something. She indicated and she influenced him to whack off. Excuse me. To whatever. To play with himself in a window that was in a library across from the class she was in, which she indicated was the same class. And that was also, it was a different class with the next year with the speech class, but that was also with people recording. That class also had reported ties to and confessed ties, demonstrated ties to criminality with Washington, D.C., and with criminal justice, and with a program named DACA, and with stock and stuff like that. That was also reported and confessed the next year, involved with the same criminals, victims, but then raised as criminals, tied to the same guy down the street. He said he would. In that class, I never had a personal conversation with him, but he was reported and confessed too, involved with off-campus reported and confessed kids from other schools next to the who lived next to the high school, all reported and confessed involved with identity theft crimes and crimes with doctors and with police forms and interbranch bad bad all natures of crimes and of fake criminals and of lie progressions and of uses of that through time, like Chris Walters. A Judge Smith confessed and reported involved crimes with houses, also reported and confessed involved by others, and afterwards, and then on the north side of the high school. Then on the south side, there was also reported and confessed involved a Fred Grisette. This is also reported and confessed with his involvements with people reported and confessed involved with houses at the other end of both next to the schools. It's demonstrable how they're all victims, but in such a way, they already locked themselves in, and into like this Kelly Kazmarek too. She says she approaches me. Oh, my father, CIA. The other girl approaches me. Oh, so somebody's going to CIA. So that's him to imply that I did something to him. Because they also had a Wethersfield officer force himself into my house and threatened me not to, with no warrant, forced through my door, threatened me not to do anything to a Scalar family, which he keeps seeking me out. So there's sequence shifting and lying about my behavior and lying about my relationships to people that I don't have. He's also recorded and confessed involved with the sex offender cliques and drug offender untimely deaths with dentists also involved. Various connected dentists connected various ways into an old town cafe, into a mobile gas station, up the street from that, then to a Samuel Dick's houses, the houses around that, and then all the way down the street further to where you come to Paul Manafort Drive, CCSU. Then there used to be a stripper place. I never went there. Also reported and confessed involved with their roles, with the natures of industries like that, in relationship to how the value nature system was built, not to reach out to everybody. And this is in conjunction simultaneously with the impositions of that, inseparable from the nature of what's furthering it, as the nature consciously what's furthering exploitations of the north end of Hartford's most exploited areas, and the rest, all of Hartford's exploited areas, especially right next to the Hartford Hospital campus, because we have so much pseudo healthcare that owes demonstrably owes. You know what I mean? Anyways, disgusting what was left to unfold because we didn't have natures of agencies to let be sophistication capable of countering and explaining and of understanding the nature of organized crime they used in Hartford. Since Hartford and Wethersfield, George Washington had to semi-counter extort what had his slavery force, had roles with it. He had to force them locked into a position the right way, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Not so we could win the revolution, so but we could win a role with and as one of the same fake nations that was forcing that to be the face of England per needs to save itself, simultaneously per means to stay in all parts of England extorted, even all positions of factory nature, top down, grouped, and then every individual, every state in the area of every modern nation is in a trap, therefore Iraq. So the media also threatens offensively that they pretend to take it personally when you say the media is not real. See, that's why it's important to understand how there was originally They pretend they can't believe that interbranch actors fake evidences already did through times, and how that is motivated to them, because everyone's a victim predator of this. I can demonstrate it, but see, they know that. They know that you could see through correlation that my grammar school was involved with collusion between branches and criminal foreign influences. Then the same thing was recorded and confessed with my middle school, which is 2 years. And and that's half businesses, like the dry cleaner of the Zano family. I only met Paul Zano. Also recorded and confessed involved with the fake news and the crimes with the databases and with the courts, sex offenders further, and as the ones tied to them through time, involved with there's one more tied to the mother of one who used to be a police dispatcher, also with the Dillon family, and see the mother of the Cleaser brothers, the daughter of the grandfather who died, who moved out. They were also involved with the untimely death context and other juxtaposed natures of federal crimes with people on Trinity College at the time, and with CCSU, and with their roles with on-off campus investigators and military police, forging names, switching names, and medical families also doing that in databases, like a Leahy family, attaching me to fake conversations with others. I'm having a hard time getting the name of, because there's various natures of courts that have been using those places and phone wire crime methods and mail crime methods and switching name methods with and as natures of courts offensively, vile predators, insidiously. See, because they're preventing people's voices through their entire lifetimes. And worse, they're stacking databases and evidence perception bodies with illusions and with criminal foreign influences through time. It's not even debatable in relationship to our treatments of each of the sciences scientifically. Sciences. In other words, we have opinions recorded criminally foreign influenced simply by not having demonstrated our founders' what is it? Slavery. Our founders' fact treatment nature of slavery. See, that's what it was completely a fact treatment nature racket. When you tell everyone to not believe, tell everyone not to question that and how black is going to be called what it's not, which is the color of our pupils. And that, in other words, there was all kinds of crazy laws. That wasn't prejudice. What did that then needed tactically planned, hoped for us to blame it on prejudice, not to use correlation to discern what it was, which was an active, inherent. It was an active multi-front, fake care, hurt, torture, trick, tactical pseudo-education. Not only, letting people not read, letting some people read wrong things, letting people read all wrong differentially too. White wasn't cared for. Nobody's cared for when you have what everyone's not going to agree to naturally. It's either a minority from each nation must have got must have realized they were going to be caught with international criminal enterprise when international sciences still had sophistication as the ancient republic, as the ancient campus Marsyas. And so then the devil made this archetypal criminal enterprise so they could perpetually come to this. So they're going to make the campus, they're going to make, when you tactically degrade, justify degraded original nature of value and value nature relationship to itself of existence of Earth as the campus Marsyas. That was originally revealed as value by value itself, by nature itself. See now that tactically denatured is to the fact treatment nature degradation of ourselves and of our means. That's where more of itself keeps what is also positive to itself as the great progression, as the identity of the great progression, which is discernible because all finite bodies of value are true and has no order. That is also simultaneously a value and order of what is radical to correlation that is true always, and with all exceptions demonstrating to. And progression, as progressions valued together. So all individual group and all progressions together through temporary space nature are bonded by one. That was just the value of this as a forever nature too. Semi has quality of diffusion, and semi has the identity as that diffusion, positive or negative, but per course onto itself, as itself existence that is not what is negotiated. So fake news needs to allow mandated law followed, not our interbranch actors and foreign ones there and here ducking behind the range maintained to maintain bad things, vaccines, that course and way beyond again. So it's all right to have an opinion that they make women's rights or men's rights, all to have defended what is with physical delusions, lies, and criminal foreign influences right through the sciences, and that relied upon that theater, that nature of theater was built, which is called criminal insidiousness nature. I'm not a lawyer. Criminal insidiousness nature is caused by a relationship to a nature that are criminal enterprise clauses, like wrongdoers associated with criminal enterprise. These are criminal insidiousness natures, especially within as the value of that. As modern nations all tied private is juxtaposed, hundreds of nations shared with and as this nave together, especially with psychology, identity thefts, crime rolls with courts needing to hide that for them, needing them to be sued alone, where they have the courts already switching names and sequences and pretending illusions with them, already using time for what's facilitated before the branches, and still, maintaining only let realize criminal insidiousness nature as value. Its nature of positive, not real positive fact treatment nature obligations when asked the question, not by accident. that are exploited by this fluently through our nations. So they don't know what to do. When it comes to negotiations, the relationship to nothing got better because the bombs of war just, now it's the end. Yeah. The identity of existence slash space will only stay perfect value progression, which is demonstrated by this course of the bond, finite, active, progressive bond at the same time. It's not valued together. Lead of IDs is force. Force space nature transfer. This relationship that is distinct and simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship that the overall complete identity of space has to all parts of itself. Finite, active, progressive. This course returns. Boxing was revealed by the ancient campus Marcius before sciences and nations were divided from the value of our species bond. They originally used as a contemplation piece. Body of value, group value, sexes, is group, individual value. What's positive to all those also at the same time. That's where the identity of space comes through. Not from the physics of photosynthesis, but through the negative value nature, carbon gases in the photosynthesis together. In other words, negative value nature together, not negative make it positive, but positive coming through negative, coming through everything, especially coming through positive. That's what we want. See, there's positive, there's temporary positive, but then there's temporary positive that is also positive onto itself, and that's where the evolution is. I thank you for coming out tonight. 0 views. I'm sick of that. I forgot what I was. You got my mind. So, see, with these negotiations too, they're tied to things like people don't understand. It's what the president's trying to say. You guys don't understand what's involved with these negotiations. No, it's pseudo positive. But if the president says that, he's going to be tortured with everybody because the markets are going to move. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how we were forced to play. Now everyone has to eat through a system that is ulterior from the one that makes us hungry for in the first place, so we understand. That makes us long clean water in the first place, so we understand. The more and more the identity of space comes by. It only uses ground as positive. Ground, active, and progressive. Progression is value together is positive. Everything's obfuscated. They obfuscated the perfection of the sciences, which are revealed to teach us about the identity they share as English. Veil, like yin yang. Anything. Okay, thank you.